I just switched on the recording to let everybody know that this will go public. And over to you, Mandy.
Okay. So, friends, firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and we pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and to their emerging leaders. Would someone like to open in prayer?
Yes, I'd like to open in prayer.
Thank you, Robbie.
Loving God, as we come together for this discussion about the relationship between Christianity and other faiths, we warmly welcome Rev Manas Ghosh to share his experience from the Indian SCM and in Australia. And we reflect on the words of Christ, that what you do to the least, you do to me. And so we think of the need to show respect for everyone. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Robbie. Well, it is indeed a pleasure to welcome Reverend Dr Manas Ghosh to our Zoom tonight. Manas is the chair of the Interfaith Commission of the New South Wales Ecumenical Council. He is also the Minister of the Word at the Wahroonga Uniting Church and is passionate about interfaith work. And it seems to me that where Manas has been in ministry, he has set up friendships with people of other faiths and has really fostered them, which is wonderful. He comes to us with the link to the SCM of India. And I guess we'd all be interested to know whether that has had a role in Manas's formation, because as someone else who sits on the New South Wales Ecumenical Council, I must say that Manas has always seemed to me to be a person of great wisdom and insight. And we warmly welcome him. So Manas, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Mandy, for your very kind introduction. And good evening, everyone. And thanks to the members of the Australian Student Christian Movement, especially Mandy, for asking me to share with you my thoughts and reflections of interfaith work, and interfaith relationship. But I just have a question before I start. I mean, what do you call yourself? Senior friends of Australian Student Christian Movement?
Yes, if we're not students, then we're senior friends, yes.
Yeah, that's what we used to be called when we finished our university degrees. So that's why. Thank you. Well, what I want to do in my presentation is, first, I'd like to share with you my background. And as Mandy mentioned, it's very important because the influences that I had at that time in my formative years to build interfaith relations is very important. So I will do that. And then I will say a few words about my theological understanding of interfaith, because that's also important. As I was introduced and as I am a Christian minister, I face that question a lot, that why are you involved with interfaith? What is your theological rationale or background or foundation for the interfaith work? And then I will share with you some of the interfaith works that I'm involved with. And then I will share with you some points, some interesting points that I have gleaned or I've gathered from my interfaith relations and interfaith work, which might be helpful for all of us to build interfaith relationship with people of other faith and to do some work with them. And at the end, I will show you some photos. And I apologize at the very outset that these photos are not in any particular order, because I never took those photos, because I have been conducting those services. So when I thought about showing some photos, I contacted a few people who I thought that might have some photos, so they sent me. And as they sent me, I sent it to Michael, and thanks to Michael for collating those pictures. So you can have a look at those pictures, and if you have questions, you can ask me. And I thought that that might actually add a little bit of color to my dry talk. And I'm very happy to take any question, or if you want to make any comments at the end of that. So, but I begin with a very personal story, and this story is very important because the day. This story is about my mother. And today is my mother's birthday. And if she were alive, she would have turned 100 today.
Wow.
So this is a very personal story, and the day is very important. Among many childhood memories, one particular image is very deeply embedded in my mind, and that is of my mother at prayer at early mornings every day. She used to pray a number of times during the day, but morning prayers were very, very special. Sitting cross-legged on her bed with folded hands and closed eyes, she just immersed herself in deep communion with God. Now, well, you might ask what's so special about it, but it was special because while she used to pray, I could hear the sound of the recitation from the Quran from a local mosque. And this is called the Ajaan, which is the Muslim call to prayer. And from the other end, I could hear the sound of ringing of bells and melodious chanting from a Hindu temple. The confluence of prayers from three different religious streams made my early mornings very special. It was almost heavenly. I grew up in one of the most multicultural, multilingual, and multi-religious country in the world. On the left of our house lived a Burmese Buddhist family, and on the right, a Jain family. Our milkman was a Hindu, our butcher was a Muslim, our baker was a Jew, the driver of the bus which took us to school was a Sikh. Our school, our playground, our neighborhood were like mini United Nations. We enjoyed one another's company, hospitality, festivals, and shared one another's joys and sorrows, hopes and aspirations. I come from a devout Christian family, but it always had a room for the others and an open spot at the table. In those early years, we are handed a lesson by our parents on how to see in a multi-religious society the many fine distinctions in people, and yet at the same time, appreciate the common humanity we share. From that early age, I started learning that rather than being held back by fear of difference, whether religious or cultural or racial, life was much more interesting and enjoyable when you crossed the borders of predictable knowledge and discover the beauty of difference. The many shades of human creativity, problem solving, thinking, singing, dancing, playing, art, music, food, make our human family a wonder to behold. Those experiences taught me that whatever it means to be a Christian, and obviously there are a lot of opinions on that today, there has to be a vulnerability to reach outside and create space for people, regardless of their race, religion, orientation, and all those shallow divisions. It was rooted in the generous act of grace of God reaching out to the world. We are taught by our family to model that same inclusive invitation. After my high school, when I started university, I maintained those principles of life that were practiced at home and in our neighborhood. In university days, I joined the Student Christian Movement of India. And I can tell you what a wonderful time I had. It was a great learning time again. Most of my university friends were non-Christians. I would say about 97% of them. So you can imagine how microscopic minority we were as Christian students. But again, there was no barrier between us. We all used to join together in our meetings, seminars, conferences, even the summer work camps, where Hindus, Muslims, they all coming to the summer camp organized by the SCM and work together. It was a great time to learn and share and build interfaith relations. And that's the background I come from. Multiracial, multilingual, multireligious, and yet the differences were respected, celebrated, and used for the common good rather than feared and separated. I studied theology both in India and Australia. So at this point, I'd like to share with you briefly my theological understanding of interfaith relations. As you know, that there are basically three theological stands or positions when it comes to interfaith relations. First is the position of exclusivism. And this position holds that there is no salvation outside Christ. Christianity is the only religion, the only truth, and the only way. And all other religious claims are false and invalid. Many Christians subscribe to this view. But again, among these exclusivist people, there are some who believe that non-Christian religions do contain elements of truth. And I want to quote someone who was in India, and he was the Bishop of South India, but he is from UK, and that is Leslie Newbigin. And I'm sure, David, you know him. Leslie Newbigin, he said that anyone who has had intimate friendship with a devout Hindu or Muslim would find it impossible to believe that the experience of God of which his friend speaks is simply illusion or fraud. While the strength of this exclusivist position is the unswerving affirmation of Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, its weakness is the tendency to place boundaries around the love of God and to deny the generous hospitality of God enacted in Christ. It's very elitist. And it's like the saying that we hear often these days, it's my way or highway. The position makes it difficult in building interfaith relationship. And then there is this position of inclusivism. It's the belief that God is present in non-Christian religions, but it is Christ who actually saves their adherents. And it was popularized by Roman Catholic theologian Karl Rahner. And he used the term anonymous Christian to denote people who experience the grace of God in Christ, regardless to what religion they belong to. So inclusivism still holds the view that salvation is through Christ alone. And God wills the whole world to be saved, and God makes this possible through ways that extend to all humanity. This position is interesting, but when you see it from the perspective of other religions, it is arrogantly exclusivist. For it tells the Hindus that they are not saved by their dharma, and Muslims, they're not saved by their works, but all are saved unaware by Christ. This not only proves that the salvation doctrine of all other religions are false, but also that people are not saved because of following their own religion. This is something like saying that your neighbor is living by your money, though it is they who earns their livelihood and lives by it. The third position is pluralism. It is basically the belief that all the world religions are true and equally valid in their communication of the truth about God, the world, the salvation. According to this position, Christianity is not the one and only way of salvation, but one among several. And instead of seeing Christ or Christianity at the center of religion, It places God at the center of religions. Hans Küng, the famous Swiss Roman Catholic theologian, expounds that the real unity of religions is found not in doctrine or trans-religious experience, but in the common experience of salvation or liberation, or in the common moral and ethical vision central to all religions. Look, as for myself, I believe in my very bones that Jesus Christ is my Savior. Throughout my life and ministry, I have maintained and will maintain the centrality of Christ and his message in my life. However, from my lifelong experience and encounter with people from other faiths, I have learned that God's loving kindness, God's mercy, God's fidelity, God's abiding presence, and God's saving grace know no boundaries. This recognition has resonance with the Second Vatican Council Declaration on the relationship of the Church to non-Christian religions. It states, the Catholic Church rejects nothing of what is true and holy in these religions. It has a high regard for the manner of life and conduct, the precepts and doctrines, which, although differing in many ways from its own teaching, nevertheless often reflect a ray of that which enlightens all men and women. The declaration goes on. The Church, therefore, urges its sons and daughters to enter with prudence and charity into discussion and collaboration with members of other religions. Let Christians, while witnessing to their own faith and way of life, acknowledge, preserve, and encourage the spiritual and moral truths found among non-Christians together with their social life and culture. This sentiment is shared by an eminent Canadian theologian, Douglas John Hall. In an article, he says, confessing Christ, in that article, Confessing Christ in a Religious Pluralistic Context, Hall suggests that a sober recognition of the fact that the Church no longer holds the power it once held during the long period of its Constantian captivity can be the beginning of a life-enhancing relationship with non-Christian religions. We are now, he suggests, in the biblically normal situation that includes a plurality of religions and or quasi-religious alternatives. Paul suggests that for the last 16 centuries, Christians have seen themselves to be the sole bearers of truth, the natural rulers over people, and the sole upholders of the good life. We now know that we share this planet with other faith communities who also believe with intensity and who have cultural values and styles of living with their own integrity and beauty. And now, if you are a spiritual descendant of Methodism, then you might well remember what John Wesley said. He cautioned about the pride that comes from thinking that others have nothing to teach us, most especially those with whom we strongly disagree. I love and respect people from all faith and no faith. For me, the impetus comes from Jesus' commandment, love your neighbor. It's the Christian imperative. When Jesus said, love your neighbor, he didn't mean that we love only our Christian neighbors. As a matter of fact, in today's world, we live, work, and rub our shoulders every day with people of many different faiths. When I came to Sydney, my adopted home city, I was delighted to see its diversity. It is now one of the most multicultural, multilingual, and multi-religious society among the developed nations. In Sydney, I have lived and worked in Auburn, Enclave, Bexley, Rockdale, Linfield, Parramatta, Winston Hills, and now in Wahroonga. The diversity I see everywhere is amazing. And as I said earlier, it is to be enjoyed, celebrated, and used as a social capital to build harmony and peace and do the common ethical good for our communities and the world. This diversity challenges us as Christians to discover the true nature of Jesus' command to love your neighbor without any hint of crusading fervor or triumphalism or rudeness towards the adherents of other faiths. This diversity challenges us to love and respect them the way Jesus loved and respected people. This diversity also has a wonderful potential to offer Jesus' hospitality, forgiveness, and care for the other. Who we are speaks louder than our words. Many of us may never speak directly of Jesus in our meeting with people of other faiths, but our way of being with them is itself our confession. We also need to engage in dialogue because of Jesus. Jesus spoke with others, the Samaritans, the Syrophoenicians, and the outcast of the society at that time. He even admired their faiths and actions, even to the point of exemplifying them. His example should lead us to value all people, to discover their insights and work with them for a better world. And how much it is needed in our world today when we witness so much sectarian violence across the world. Pope Francis said, "The walls which divide us can be broken down only if we are prepared to listen and learn from one another." We need to resolve our differences through forms of dialogue which help us grow in understanding and mutual respect. A culture of encounter demands that we be ready not only to give, but also to receive. But that needs humility. The humility to believe that the other has something worthwhile to say and to entertain his or her point of view and perspective. It needs humility to believe that we do not own God, but God owns us, all of us. This humility doesn't demand that you have to renounce your faith, your ideas, your traditions, but the arrogant claim that they alone are valid or absolute. Martin Buber, the famous Jewish philosopher, once said, "When two people relate to each other authentically and humanly, God is the electricity that surges between them." From my study, my observation, and experiences, I have found that the world religions are not much different, if not the same. Love, compassion, kindness, forgiveness, justice are not just Christian monopolies. They are there in other faiths as well, as there are practitioners of those values. In my interfaith ministry, I work on those common values to fulfill the mission of Jesus Christ, to bring good news to the poor, to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. In my interfaith work, and particularly when it comes to building harmony and peace in our diverse communities, I subscribe to what Hans Kung said, "No peace among the nations without peace among the religions. No peace among the religions without dialogue between the religions. no dialogue between the religions without investigation of the foundation of the religions. I guess no one present at this virtual gathering believes that religion is the sole cause of conflict in the world. At the same time, neither would deny that religion often adds passion and fuel to the conflict. However, I believe in every fiber of my being that all religions have lots to contribute to global peace. So it's important that we take seriously what Hans Kung said, which I just quoted. We know what's happening in Afghanistan and many other places in the world right at this moment. So I believe it is vitally important to building interfaith relations and dialogue if we are serious about building a harmonious and peaceful world. And now at this point, I'd like to share with you some of the interfaith work that I'm involved with. As Mandy mentioned in our introduction, that I chair the Interfaith Commission of the New South Wales Ecumenical Council. I also chair the Uniting Church New South Wales and ACT Synods relation with other faith committee. I am a member of the organizing committee of the Abraham Faith Conference, also a member of Jewish-Christian Dialogue, and a member of the Christian-Muslim Dialogue, and a member of the Multicultural New South Wales Religious Leaders Forum, and an independent member of the Rukut General Cemetery Advisory Group. And during my ministry, I have been part of and I have initiated a few interfaith activities. And I'll just briefly say what I have done so far. When I was minister at St. George Parish, which covered Arntley, Bexley, and Rockdale, I started a ministry called Family and Friends to the Missing People. And you'll be surprised to know that more than 38,000 persons go missing each year in Australia. It's a staggering number. And while most of these people are found within a short period of time, there are approximately 2,600 long-term missing people, and some of them are never found. Once I had a conversation with someone whose loved one was missing for a very long time and asked what we could do for them. And that person said something which really touched very deeply in my heart. That person said that there is no place where we can go and spend some time in silent reflection or prayer, because they cannot go to cemeteries because they're not sure whether they're dead or not. So I initiated the ministry of building a garden of hope in one of my congregations, one of my church in Arncliffe. So we made a small garden, and we made also 2 beautiful cement chairs there. And that was open to everyone. And as I said, among these 2,000 people who are long-term missing, they're not just from Christian community. They're from very many different faiths. So people used to come and sit there. They used to light a candle. They used to spend some time in reflection and prayer. And we are very honored that I was given the opportunity to start the national service for the National Missing Peoples Week in August. And that has been telecasted nationally a number of times. And it helped actually other states to start something like that in their own state. I also ministered at a very difficult time in that area, and that was the year 2001. And I was the chaplain of the Rockdale City Council at that time. And you know what happened, this 9/11 thing. And Rockdale is very multicultural, and there are lots of Muslim people living in that community. And there was huge tension at that time. But thank God that I was able to gather people from different communities, visiting them, talking with them, and also assuring that Muslim community that we are their friends and they were safe. It was not easy, but it was very rewarding at that time. And it's now 18 years that I started a very special service on the International Day of Peace, which is 21st of September. It's coming soon. And on that day, I've organized Interfaith Prayer Service. So leaders from 16 different religions who gather together on the day and offer prayers for peace. And it is intergenerational gathering. Children, students from school, adults, everyone come and join. You get an average 300 people who gather together. And it is wonderful, and the interfaith friendship that has begun with this. Sometimes when I look at this gathering there and see the religious leaders sitting side by side, it comes to my mind, in the place of the origin of the religions, they're at loggerheads with each other. But here, they're sitting side by side and offering prayers for peace. And they are friends here. And their communities are also coming closer to one another. I mentioned of Abraham Conference. It is a joint interfaith initiative of Jews, Christians, and Muslims. It started in 2002, and it organizes annual conferences with speaker and panelists from the three religions. And its main objective is to hear scholarly lectures from the speakers of the three faiths on important social, political, and religious issues, as well as building interfaith engagement between the members of the three religious communities. And it's been working very well for all these years and building people together. I mentioned of this Jewish-Christian dialogue. We initiated the dialogue from the Synod's relation with other faith community. And I think I can say that it is probably one of the longest dialogue group. We are going for 4 years now. We meet every second month, and there are discussions on academic level, and we also have many professionals and rabbis, and the relationship has become so friendly that we can discuss on several subjects: theological, social, political, and even some of the controversial things that we think as hot potatoes that we are happy to discuss there. We also have started the Christian-Muslim dialogue, and again, it's working in the same fashion as the Christian and Jewish dialogue. We also initiated Interfaith Pilgrimage, and this is very important in building interfaith relationship. I mean, we can have theological discussions on an academic level or theological level, but it works completely differently when actually we go and meet and spend some time with people from other faiths and share a meal. So we, as I said, that I extend that invitation, I invite people to the Interfaith Commission of the New South Wales Ecumenical Council, and also from the Synod's relationship with other faith committee. So people gather and we pick up 2 venues a year. One is to a group where people have never gone, like the worship place of another faith group, and we spend time with them, attend their worship, we have discussion, and then we have a fellowship meal. And the second visit that we do, that we come to a church. And these churches are not the people that are often used to go to, like, you know, the mainstream ones, but the Orthodox churches and some smaller churches. So people have a wonderful time of knowing each other. And this is something which I jokingly say, it's like the rolling stone that gathers moss. Because when you go to a temple, we make friends with the Hindu people. Then when we go to the Sikh temple, it's just not the Christians, but some of those friends from the Hindu temple, they also go to the Sikh temple. And then again, on the next visit, the Hindus, Christians, and Sikhs go to the Muslim mosque. So it's a wonderful way of building interfaith friendship and interfaith relationship. We also organize talk on Christianity, and I have been really very blessed that I should say that even as a Christian minister, that I have been invited so many times at places of other faith to go and talk about Christianity on different aspects. I'll tell you the last one that I did before the COVID started at the end of 2019. I was invited to speak at Piedmont Park, and it's near Darling Harbor, and it was a celebration of the Sikh people who was celebrating the 500th anniversary of their founder. And there's a crowd of 5,000 people, 5,000 Sikh people. And they asked me to give a talk about Christianity. It's a great honor, and I'm humbled by that. And I was so very joyed that I was able to talk about Christianity to a group of 5,000 Sikh people. And I'm happy they actually didn't ask me to feed the 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. Also, people from other faith, they have visited Christian places. You will see some of those pictures, like Muslim schools. They have come to the church that I used to minister at the time in Parramatta Mission. The Muslim Care, it's an organization which is similar to Uniting Care. Those group of people have come to see what we used to do there in Parramatta. You know that in Parramatta Mission, we have many social work that we do. So we had wonderful interaction, sharing of thoughts and ideas, and also time for building relationship. The work that we had done together last year when the COVID was at its peak, one day I got a phone call from a Hindu priest who is a friend of mine. And he asked me that if I would be happy to accept 100 kilograms of fine basmati rice and 60 kilograms of sugar, because he knew that we feed the homeless and the hungry at Parramatta Mission. And that was welcome. And they were so very generous. And they knew that at that time, we were having difficulty in finding all those resources. There have been Hindu groups who, on a regular basis during the winter, knit jumpers and beanies for adults and children. And they donate it to Parramatta Mission so that we can give it to the people. I tell you that one day I was having a meeting with the Grand Mufti of Australia. And there, when I spoke about what we did at Parramatta Mission, at the end of the meeting, the wife of the Grand Mufti opened her purse and gave money so that we could continue our work. So there you see this wonderful values of compassion and kindness that is there in those religions. And these are the social capitals that we have. And these we can gather together and we can work for common good. We have also organized seminars on environments. We have also organized seminar in Parramatta when the Parramatta Council's theme was making a great city. But people from other faiths also gathered and we organized that seminar, how to make a good city where people, no matter what their faith was, would be able to live happily and peacefully with others. So these are some of the interfaith works that I'm involved with. And over the years, working as an interfaith worker, I have gained something that really is helpful for my own understanding and also for the understanding of other people who are interested in interfaith work. So in order to build good interfaith relation, one must be honest, and open to one another and connect as equals. You also must be aware of the potential bias and misunderstanding. It is not just what we say that matters, but how we are heard matters as well. We must have a desire for deep listening with compassion, a desire to seek and explore shared interest through inquiry. There should also be opportunity for reflection and transformation, which we often do with interfaith gatherings. We must agree to disagree. That is not to seek to convert the other of our own point of view, but rather to seek to enhance one's own understanding through hearing the other's perspective and be authentic in one's own position, integrity, and faith position. We must be respectful of differences. There is also need to have agreed understanding of proceedings and actions. And I stress on action because from my experience, I have found when we work together for common good, barriers break down and friendship flourishes, and we learn from one another. From my experience, I've also found that people from different faiths have a number of things in common, which can be good foundations for building interfaith relationship. I found that all believe that God is one, the creator of all. They believe that God is love, and this love brings God to humans and invites them to be partners in God's creative activity. That God is truth, and this truth has been apprehended from many religious perspectives. God is in relationship with humanity, and this relationship between God and humans is the foundation for relationship between humans. We have found that friendly study of world religions and interpreted with tools of modern scholarship, it can help one another gain a better and informed understanding of their own religion and that of others. Mutual criticism is an integral part of interfaith dialogue. And when it is carried out with sensitivity and respect for others' faith, there can be deepening of the participants' own faith and a greater appreciation of the others. And finally, finding common values in the world religions that can lead to joint ethical action on global issues of social justice, equity, and the environment to make a better, safer, and more harmonious and peaceful world. Now, before I ask Michael to show the pictures, I'd like to share with you a story because this story is very important as my foundation for interfaith work. And I'm sharing this story because this story again comes from my mother. She told us this story when we were very young. So this is the story of a sage who was famous for his wisdom. Students from all over the world used to come to him to learn. One day, two of his students came to him and asked him to take the test to see whether their learning was complete. The sage asked them a simple question. How do you know that the darkness of the night is over and the light of the new day has dawned? One student was quick to answer. He said, "Master, when from a distance you can distinguish between a peach and an apple tree, you would know that the night is over and the new day has dawned." The sage nodded his head in disagreement. The second student answered, "Master, when from a distance you will be able to distinguish between a dog and a sheep, you will know that the darkness is over and the light of the new day has dawned." The sage nodded his head again in disapproval. And the students were eager to know the right answer. And the sage said, until you look at someone's face and don't see in him or her the face of your brother or sister, no matter what time of the day or night it is still dark. Thank you.
Manas, thank you so much. There's so much to think about there. Is it good to show the pictures first before questions and comments?
Yes, please.
Michael, over to you.
This is our Jewish Christian dialogue group.
Okay, good. So you're seeing the full pictures, the full screen? Yeah, okay, good. All right. The next picture.
This is something that we do when we had this natural calamities or human-made calamities. We have visited one another's place and spent time together in reflection and prayer. So this thing happened when there was this massacre in Christchurch. So we visited the local mosque and spent time together in reflection and prayer. Thank you. I mentioned about the Muslim care group. So this is the Muslim care group. Their leaders, they came, they have this young members and some older members. So they visited our church. They were very happy to be listening to us. And this picture on the bottom left is quite interesting because I mentioned to them that at the time I was leading actually on worship, but they said that, can we join? And what do you say? Of course you can join. And in that service, that's a weekday service that I used to lead in Parramatta. And in that service, I also used to do the Holy Communion. When I was leading the service, when the time came for, sharing the peace, that can be a little tricky because you wonder whether they'd be happy to shake hand with you and also with opposite sex. And I explained what it meant to us when we did the sharing of the peace. And they were very happy to do that. And not only that, the trickiest time came when it was the time for communion. And as you know, that Uniting Church, we believe in open table. And I explained that this is what we do as communion, what it means to us. And I also mentioned to them that, well, this table is open, but if you choose to stay back, you are more than welcome and God will still bless you. But when actually the communion started, these people came. And at the end of the service, on the top right picture, you see that in the front row, the gentleman who is standing, he is about 60 years of age.
Sorry.
He said to this whole congregation that it was the most wonderful experience that he had in his life. So it's about building trust, building friendship when barriers really break down. Thank you. The next picture is, you can see that they're students from an Islamic international high school. They came and then again, they're inside the church. And at the end of this visit, the church visit, they took part in feeding the homeless and the hungry. We worked together that day. And again, at the end of the service, their vice principal said that they found such a wonderful welcome and friendship in that church. So friendship, good relationship can begin when we are open. Next picture, please. Well, this is again the other thing that we used to organize. This is peace dinner. We probably know of that iftar dinner that when the Muslims at the end of their fasting during the month of Ramadan, when they have their dinner, they invite. But we started actually an iftar dinner when people from different faith, they came together and we celebrated Christmas at that time. So here you see leaders from different faith, they are there. And this picture is very interesting on that right-hand side, how barriers break, not just religious, even political. The gentleman with this red tie on the right-hand corner is Dr. Jeff Lee, who is the minister here at New South Wales. And next to him is Honorable Julia Finn. She is from the Labour Party. Next to her is the Catholic Bishop, Bishop Vincent Long, and then it's me. And next to me is the Grand Mufti of Australia. And on the left-hand corner is the moderator of a New South Wales Synod of UCA. So all joining hands to light a peace candle. Thank you. Yes, one of our International Day of Peace celebration. Again, you can see people from different cultures, different faith backgrounds. They have come together and they are playing the traditional drums at that service. It's very, very enjoyable, very enjoyable. And even the young children, they from the very beginning, they learn how to actually live together in harmony and in friendship. Thank you. This is the Sikh gathering in Piermont Park. Just look at that crowd. I was so very pleased that and humbled that I had that opportunity that the Sikh people gave me. And again, it happened because of the trust and the friendship that we have built together over the years to give a Christian message of love to the people. Thank you. Well, this is Iftar gathering, and you'll be surprised to hear that I used to organize Iftar dinner on behalf of the Uniting Church. And Iftar dinner, it's about offering our sacred space to people of other faith and building in friendship on the foundation of Christ, hospitality, and grace. So here, you probably know this TV personality, and there is this gentleman from the Islamic community, and myself. Thank you. Oh, this is a celebration where I was invited to a family to do something special that not belong to our religion, but they asked me to bless their little child. Thank you. This is again, this is on the top left-hand side. We organized a special service at the beginning of last year in January, when we had this devastating bushfire. So people from 15, 16 different faith backgrounds, they came together to spend time in prayer, in reflection, and in thanking the firefighters for the great work they have done. So that's the service that I organized in Parramatta. Thank you. This again is part of that service, the bushfire, that service. People are coming and they are taking part in that service. Thank you. Yes, it's that with the same one. And on top, actually, it's the peace dinner that we organize in December. Thank you. And this is about the Interfaith Pilgrimage, that we have gone to different places of worship. As you can see that people from other faith, there are Sikh people, Hindu people who have come to visit, and also Christian people from the Uniting Church who never put their faith inside an Coptic Orthodox church. We are all there together to build interfaith relationship. And that was a great time that we had in that Kellyville Coptic Orthodox Church. You can see at the center, Father Shanoda. Thank you. Yes, it's from the same gathering. Thank you. Yes, it's from that Sikh festival. As I said, that I'm sorry that there's no order. The way the pictures came, I sent to Michael. This is from that Sikh festival at Piermont. This is a huge truck and the large screen, and it was a wonderful publicity of of our faith and also the publicity for our New South Wales Ecumenical Council. Thank you. This is the peace service, and in the peace service, what has happened that not only we have got people from 16 different faiths over the years. So for 18 years, I've got wonderful speakers from different faith backgrounds who have given the keynote address. And here on the left-hand side, you can see Professor Peter Shergold, who is the Chancellor of the Western Sydney University. He came when you had the face-to-face last time in 2019. Thank you. So yeah, the same peace service. And again, you can see there are people from all walks of life. They are involved in that service. Thank you. And different cultural groups, they come. And of course, some of these cultural groups, they belong to some different faiths. So they have come and they take part in this service. I'm very thankful to this particular group of singers on the bottom left. They come from the Hindu group, and they give wonderful presentation to singing and dancing about the importance of working for environment. Thank you. So this is from the peace service again. So people again from Aboriginal community, from the police, from politics, they all come and gather together. You can see this Buddhist monk standing there. Thank you. Yes, this is again an interfaith gathering, as you can see from the youths, that people from different faith backgrounds who have come and taken part. Yeah, thank you. This is from the Abraham Faith Conference that we have organized. So if I can take this opportunity to do a little bit of commercial, the Interfaith Peace Service is coming soon on 21st of September, and I think I have sent you the invite using your email addresses. So it's happening on 21st of September, 2 p.m. on Zoom. So please come and join that service. Thank you. This is our visit to the Sikh temple. This is the largest Sikh temple in New South Wales, in Parkley, and we had a wonderful time. Wonderful time. We learned about Sikhism. We are able to meet the people there, and we also enjoyed the hospitality that was offered to us over a meal. Thank you. Yeah, as you can see that we are enjoying the meal together, and it's a great time of learning that in that feeding thing, they're all equals. You see side by side with one another. Doesn't matter where you belong to in the society or in your status, we are all equals there. So we had a great time there. Thank you. This again is our interfaith gathering of Abraham Conference that we did in Parramatta. As I said, that we started in 2002, so it's been going on for nearly 18 years now. Thank you. Yes, this is another picture from the Abraham Conference, and we get speakers from Australia, and we also get speakers from overseas. On the right-hand side, the gentleman, the third from the right, he came from Rome, and he is a professor of religion in the Pontifical College in Rome. He came and he gave a talk. Thank you. Yes, the peace service, at the end of the peace service, it's great to release peace doves that was happening at that time. So I just showed that it will be interesting to see. And the way that people, not only those who took part in that service, who came even in the spread of the message of peace that was given to the community. Thank you. Yes, it's remembering our brothers and sisters in Christchurch. As you can see, that we invited the community to come and they lit candle, remembering those who lost their lives and committing to work for peace. Thank you. Yep, these are all interfaith gatherings over meal. So people come, and that's a wonderful time to know one another. Really, really great time to build friendship over simple meals. Thank you. Same thing. I think that probably now we'll have little time for any questions or comments. Otherwise, we'll not have that. Yeah, it's
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Manas. Yeah, there's so many. That's just marvelous. Fantastic.
That's the last one.
yes. Thank you, Michael, for sharing.
That's all right.
Well, thank you so much, Manas. There's just so much there. So, reflections, comments, thoughts, questions to Manas? Silence. So I must say personally how encouraging it is, Manas, to see this and to sense the importance of building friendship in Australia, because communities out here are a diaspora from other places where there is a lot more conflict. And if what we can do in this country can help ripple out that sense of friendship, then we are doing something special that certainly reaches beyond ourselves.
Yeah. Great.
I'd be interested, Manas, to ask a couple of points. I think one of the areas where the faith is coming more and more into Australian culture is in recognition of Indigenous people. And so that whole question of how Christianity recognises the presence of God in Australia through, as the Uniting Church Preamble, for example, makes clear. And I'd just be interested in your thoughts on the recognition of Aboriginal spirituality.
Thank you, Rob, for asking that question. And we make sure that that is done in all our interfaith gatherings. And it is just not the token thing of, in a way that sometimes done, just acknowledgement or the welcome thing, but they actually take part in those services. I mentioned about this Interfaith Peace Service that takes place on the 21st of September. There is representative from that Indigenous community offering prayer from their background. So that is there. And as a result, what has happened, that individual spirituality has also been introduced to people of other faith. Because as you mentioned, that in the Uniting Church, we work very closely with Aboriginal people for the recognition, putting it in our preamble. But it hasn't actually happened much in other religions. But because of building that relationship, now Aboriginal speakers are invited into the gatherings of other faith, where they're able to share their spirituality and the relationship is built. So it's a small step, but we are very mindful of that and we do it.
Manas, you mentioned the Constantinian captivity of the Christian church, and I thought that was a really interesting way of describing the heritage of Christendom as a way of, I suppose, a traditional dogmatic and authoritarian approach to Christianity. And it seems that indicates that one of the barriers to interfaith is often found in the more conservative elements within Christianity who hark back to that sort of Constantinian role of the church.
Yes, there are, and people, particularly people from very strong evangelical background, often ask me that question. And even though I give their my rationale for doing this, they insist. But I ask them also that, have you actually been able to reach out to any non-Christian people And most of the time, the response is in the negative. No. And the people who have answered in positive is that they have approached with the sole objective of converting these people. And I say that that's a wrong way of actually building relationship. Because if you want to do it, and if the people understand that it's the way you're trying to build relationship is a covert way of proselytizing others, immediately that relationship snaps. But if you go with an open mind, if you go with real friendship, you are actually given the opportunity to talk about Christianity, which I have found. As I said, just one example that happened at the end in December 2019. I got that opportunity to talk about Christ to 5,000 people in one go. And it has been possible because of the relationship that we have built. And this is just one among many. Even last month, I spoke to a group of people, and it was a live stream that went to hundreds of people. They asked me about Christian perspective on peace. Where do you get that opportunity unless you open yourself up?
One of the differences with India is that there are people of many different faiths, but not really people of no faith. And one of the things in Australia is that we have so many people who see no need for faith, like there's the growth of atheism as a movement. And I'm just wondering if you include a dialogue with atheism in your view of interfaith dialogue.
It works, as I mentioned in my talk, about doing the common good. When you do the common good, you find people. And I have no qualms with people of no faith, but they have some faith in something, which is not necessarily my faith. So that's again from my experience of working in Parramatta Mission, working with the homeless and the hungry, working for environment, working for world peace. I have come across so many people who have extended their hand to me to do this work, but they will not enter a church or a temple or a mosque. So again, relationship is building with these people. I visit the Villa Detention Center to go and see the asylum seekers. My objective is to offer them Christ's friendship without mentioning or without trying to proselytize these people, and non-Christian people and people without any faith. They have joined me as well. So there are lots of points of converging, to work with people of faith and no faith. And the real friendship is being built.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
May I
David.
comment? First of all, I want to thank Manas, not only for what you said, but for all that you are doing. I think it's brilliant that you are in so many key roles for us, for the churches of New South Wales and indeed Australia. That's very, very encouraging to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to say was, listening to you, I was reflecting on how far we have come in recent years. I remember when the World Council of Churches took the step of establishing a unit to deal with relations with people of other faiths. That was hugely contentious half a century ago. The roof almost fell in at the Ecumenical Center in Geneva. How could we do such a thing? Why were we selling out on evangelism? Why had we stopped believing in Jesus Christ? Very contentious. I remember when the National Council of Churches in this country took the initiative to start a dialogue with Muslims and Jews in Australia 20 years ago. Again, a lot of unease. What are you people doing? Why are you putting our Christian faith at risk? But we've, through it all, thanks to people like you, we've really traveled a very long way in what's really quite a few short years. It's not only has it been difficult, it's also had its funny moments. I remember one of the incidents at the 1991 Assembly of the World Council of Churches in Canberra was when we had the inevitable demonstrators waving signs denouncing the World Council of Churches and all its works. One of the demonstrators found himself at one point talking to a participant from Nigeria, and was explaining to the guy from Nigeria why dialogue with people of other faiths was so corrupting and so clearly evidence of the fact that the World Council of Churches had fallen from grace. What the protester did not realize was that the Nigerian he was talking to was a Muslim consultant to the event. And the Muslim had the grace to listen carefully and ask further questions about why people were so uneasy about talking to people of other faiths. And anyway, after about 15 minutes, they parted company, and the Nigerian thanked the demonstrator and said, "You've been very, very helpful, very enlightening. But I should tell you that for the last 15 minutes, you have been talking to a person of another faith. I hope you found it helpful." And off they went. So it has its lighter moments as well as its serious sides. But thank you again, Manas. Well, great job. Great job.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much.
Well, friends, we've come to that time that we probably should bring things to a close. But Manas, I think the way you started, I found very helpful, saying perhaps there are three paradigms: the exclusivist, the inclusivist, and the pluralist, and recognizing the generosity of God, which knows no bounds, and our responsibility to treat everyone as neighbour with respect and love and courtesy. And if we spring from that, then other things should follow. So I think as an undergirding understanding, I found that beautiful. Thank you. Can we all close with the grace? Manas, thank you so much. That was just so helpful and enlightening and incredibly encouraging to know that you are there doing all that, and also so many other Christians with you and people of other faiths, and there's exchange and friendship and meals, and it's just a joyous thing. So thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you. And you also, I mean, I know some of you personally and the wonderful work that you do. It's very encouraging for me. Thank you.
Let's close with the grace, everyone. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen.
Amen.
So everyone, we've got our next Zoom on the 5th of September. David, would you like to say something about that?
Yes, our speaker, that's next Sunday. Our speaker will be Peter Walker, who's the principal of the United Theological College in Sydney, a particularly eloquent and one of the younger theologians in Australia today. Peter will be talking about identity politics and Christian theology, one of the tough issues of our time.
Thank you, David. So once again, Manas, many thanks, and thank you everybody for making the time to be here and to participate, and we hope that that gave you inspiration too. This will be put on YouTube, and we're building a YouTube library for the Australian Student Christian Ministry to offer to the community, so that people, when they click on that, they can see what they might want to click onto, and that's really what we're trying to offer, the richness, the Christian tradition. That's our purpose. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Bye for now.
Bye.